Hello, everyone. Welcome to season three, episode 12 of Night Speed. I am Matt Johnson with his brother Mark Johnson.
Hey, everybody.
This is end of the year talk. I guess here in Orlando, we have a brand new coach. We ushered out
A
the
lot has
old,
happened since our last
yeah,
podcast.
he left, and now we got a new coach. Yeah, I guess it kind of trailed off. Couldn't. That's why it was. I guess that's the thing with the highlights and the lowlights. But I guess with the end of the season, it was just the lights were just too low. And I
It
was noticing,
it got tough. It got
yeah, I
really
noticed
tough.
that seemed like all I was doing was complaining, and that's what I said. I don't want to complain about my team all the time. So I said, that's unless we turn it around, and then
Well, in the handful of fans that we have, and I'm saying at most right now, I mean it's a first year of doing it on video.
video,
We top out at about 32 to 35 people. Okay,
yeah,
but when you and I are talking about like after the BYU loss, or it's just you're getting three people sometimes, and
yeah,
people don't want to watch that. I don't, so I get it.
no,
You
you're
know,
right. But with yeah, the ASU, it seemed to all just kind of,
issue. It's like I don't, no. Why would you want to sit there and watch that when all we're going to do is complain about how poorly we did? We
yeah,
try
and
not
that's
to,
really,
but there's really, I mean, if you looked at it positively, we almost did beat, actually the conference champion at
yeah,
place, lost
to
to
the
him.
wire, took them to the wire.
But you look
Again, I
deep
think,
down, Matt, you knew we were going to lose. You knew
yeah,
we were going to lose.
well, it wasn't really necessary at the end of the game. I mean, 'cause again, I know there's people who don't think you can lose a game on one play. I
Yeah.
do. I'm one of those people that actually think you can lose on one play.
No,
But if you look at the pick six we had and the blocked punt, and there it is. It's I mean there was just the discipline on this last regime's
the call,
coaching staff was just
the snafu in the end zone, Matt, that got the pick six to happen because you had a kid out there who did not know what he was doing,
exactly,
catching I mean, that is such a coaching problem that
yeah. Well,
you shove a kid out there who doesn't know what's going on. And
and it
yes,
didn't
he may
hurt us
be a
for
good
G
athlete,
five.
but he had no idea what he was doing out there. And
Yeah.
and it just sums up what this coaching staff was. It
Well,
was
and it's also again, it didn't hurt us in the G5 because it did happen again against South Florida. Remember in our last game we
right.
played them, where you had a kid who didn't know how to kick a squib kick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Against
that was
UCF.
poor
Yeah.
coaching, and it reared its head ever so slightly over the entire tenure. He was like,
Right.
okay,
Gus tells the kid, kick a squib kick. He goes, okay, goes out there and then kicks an onside kick. To where then they get it at our 45 and have a legitimate shot of winning that game. It's like
yeah,
Gus, of course he doesn't know what he's doing. You never coached him on this. And
yeah.
you just got tired of that. And I'm so
You know,
thankful.
I
You
got
know,
to think though, when I was in high school, though, I know what a squib kick was.
yeah, but the Mitch, whatever his name, man, he's from Australia.
Oh,
He's
that's
an
true. So
Australian kid, you know?
got it. Yeah,
And you think an Australian kid's gonna know what you're talking about? Probably not.
probably not. You're right.
And so you've got
Yeah,
to make sure he does
when he's practicing, I would think you practice all kinds of kicks.
all kinds. Yeah,
You know, squib, onside, just all that.
right.
But then again, going back to the kid going and panicking in the end zone or on the 1 yard line and running it out. I
Yeah.
realized he should have realized that all you have to do is
And
not make an effort to go run the ball,
do
and
you
you're okay.
remember, Matt, in that ASU game, as soon as that happened, literally we were ahead.
Yeah,
And on a dime, I mean, you had the blocked kick, or I'm sorry, the blocked punt, which turned into a pick, scoop and score.
yeah.
And then it just kind of really quickly unraveled within 5 minutes.
Mhm.
When does that happen? Unless it's just poor coaching. You can't get these guys. It just reared its ugly head throughout that guy's tenure.
Yeah. Well, you all remember too is we got back in the game.
Yeah,
We got back into it and had the
leading,
lead.
leading in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so
Couldn't hold the
yeah,
lead. Iowa
yeah, it was.
State, another one. And when you sit there and you look at it, and you know, they should have just kept KJ in. We would have been worse off next year. I mean, but we'd probably be bowl eligible.
Well, that's a thought. I don't know if I really agree with that one.
Well, when you look at it, who was the quarterback that won the most games out of
It
the
was
four that
KJ.
started this year? It was KJ.
But again, that's not fair because any one of those guys probably could have won those first three games. Maybe not the TCU game. I think that was just luck. I
I
think
don't.
TCU lost that game more than we won it.
Well, they went 8-4 this year, Matt. They're
Yep.
bowling.
Yeah, it's
I don't think Dylan Risk goes into TCU and wins that game. He might, you never know, but I don't think Jakari Brown does.
no. I said
EJ Colson, I don't know. I mean, he was such a small sample size. Who knows? My point being is KJ he won 3 games. I think
yeah,
he beat Cincinnati.
yeah,
Um, Obviously Arizona, that's 5 right there.
yeah.
And then you got to either beat West Virginia at West Virginia, which we were never in the game. Never in the game.
Never.
They got up by 14 again, just like last year.
Yeah.
Just kept 14 ahead. It was just pathetic.
Well, they got up at 21 by halftime. Remember that? And again, it was also goes back to poor clock management,
Well,
which
just poor coaching. I mean, my point is they got up on 14 on us just like that, and they get up as high as 21, but we never got within 14 points of them.
no.
Uh,
Well, like at the end of the game, it was 10 points, but again, it was just they were kind of coasting,
right. But
coasting
KJ
on.
Jefferson, and then so West Virginia, does that get you to 6? Maybe not. But then Utah, we were never in that game.
No,
And I'm not sure
because even when we were
but
close within a score, we still just couldn't move the ball. And then you have the 1, 2 pick sixes, and now it's
I
all
mean,
over.
I think the last time we did a pod was with the Arizona game and raved about Dylan Risk. And unfortunately, the Utah game showed us what his ceiling was, and it wasn't as high as we thought.
Yeah, I'm not going to be as hard on Dylan right now because I do know he is a redshirt freshman, right?
Right. No, he is.
I'm gonna give him my jury's still out on him. I'm not gonna totally say that he's the best that he could do, but just for the fact because he still has a lot of football I think he could play.
Hmm.
Again, you're right. I think if you go talent wise, I think Utah did actually have a more talented team than we did. They're a year removed away from being the Pac-12 champion.
Utah, yeah.
So
Well, they lost 8 straight, I think, or 7 straight, and they won the last game of the season, obviously, to where they went 4-0 or something like that, right? And then
yeah,
lost 7 straight, and then won the last one against us, of course, because they said our team didn't really quit, but I would say out there you had about half who quit and the other half who didn't. you
yeah.
know, it was just
But I look at I didn't see us getting better. I really didn't.
we were getting worse.
Yeah, and I didn't see. I think Coach
We're not.
Malzahn saw that too. He saw, this is not getting better. Um, Maybe it's me. That's what I'm just thinking. He said, well, because again, it takes a little more to be a head coach now in college football than just coaching a position or running a certain part of the team. Because again, I think you have to be a CEO, and I think a lot of these guys don't know the first. I mean, they're coaches, they're teachers. They're
All the
not.
Gusisms kind of, that Auburn fans were kind of telling us 4 years ago. They were all like, wait and see, wait and see. And we're like, oh, no, you guys are just kind of, it all came up of Gus hiring, taking the offensive duties back from the offensive coordinator who he hired, then
Yeah.
firing him, and then hiring another one, letting him run the offense, firing that guy or demoting him, taking over it, and it was just it
Well,
was
sadly about it,
exactly what you expected.
what was sad about it was he um Auburn hasn't got any better. They've got like a curse. They've not really
Yeah, well,
part of the SEC. I mean, the old SEC
that's
West. They're still floundering.
right. And that's the one thing too is Gus left here, and he could have really been difficult on us and made us fire him, give him $12 million
Oh
to
yeah,
fire. And
and that right there is the reason why I don't really have any ill will towards them.
right,
My
because
opinion,
he
this
did
just
leave.
didn't work. Good luck to him.
Right, and he quit and he moved
Hope it
on.
all works out. Yeah, if it
But
works
he
out.
did burn this program to the ground.
Yeah,
Make that
but
clear. Our
I
program
think
is in disarray at this point.
yeah, the kitchen's on fire.
Right, to where in comes Scott Frost, and that was interesting how that worked out. To where you had coaches, and it depends on who you believe. That obviously we had the coach from Liberty, the coach from Tulane, and then the coach from UNLV that we were all kind of tracking. But Scott was starting to work his way in there all the time.
Well, I mean, and rumor has it that the Tulane coach and the Liberty coach both turned us down.
Well,
Guess you guys are happy being G5 guys. Okay, hey,
no, I think what happened was is that I think they were wanting this and wanting that, and I think what was starting to happen is like, do we really want to commit this to this guy? He is a G5 coach.
yeah,
All of them lost their, Liberty wasn't in any championship, but the other ones were not
yeah,
even competitive in their championship games.
yeah,
And I think actually after a while you start seeing this if you're Terry Mahajan going, I've seen this before. The last guy I hired can do this.
yeah.
Why am I gonna, and I think what Terry started seeing is the fan base was, watching this. And you had big donors all saying, you know, why is Scott not even being considered here? So I think Terry finally picked up the phone and started talking to Scott, and Scott really showed how much interest he had, And I think that's where Terry got more comfortable
Hmm.
of you're the guy who knows what it takes to win here, be it was in the American, the AAC, but he knows the landscape already. He'll be able to hit the
Yeah.
ground running,
We also got to remember it's the game of football. Whether it's G5 or P4, it's still the
right.
game of
It's
football.
still the game of football. Right.
And I
I
think
agree.
he again he knows coaches locally here. I think he can get a good relationship with the guy at Seminole again, and some of these other coaches around here, which I think that'll be good for him and good for us,
Right.
fan base. So and again, he's not afraid to play recruits, especially young recruits, freshmen.
As freshmen, yeah. If you, and those are the guys who are, they all love him.
Yeah,
You sit there and that was the one thing too, is you saw all these old players when you saw Matt, the guy had two classes.
yeah,
Start reading those classes and overwhelming the majority of them are what you considered some of the best players to ever play here. You know,
no, you're right. And his receivers, you know what I loved about his receivers when we do these, quick out passes, to the flats.
hmm
Receivers out there in front of him would never have a block, and
right,
he was having to look to break a tackle, and again, if he didn't, then it was usually like a 2 yard loss.
right.
It's like really,
Well,
you know,
exactly. But Sean Beckton's here still,
yeah.
which I'm sure he's going to keep Becton, which he'll be probably the receivers coach. It looks like Mackenzie Milton is coming back.
I
Uh,
still want to know what his role is. If he's going to be the quarterback coach, or if he's just an offensive assistant.
I don't think he would come back on a lateral
Something
move.
like yeah,
He's an offensive assistant out of Tennessee.
yeah,
To where if you're coming back here, I'm sure there's probably I think he has shown he can be a QB coach. I mean,
yeah,
Dylan Gabriel for crying out loud.
yeah,
He coached him,
yeah.
you know.
Well, does he have a place here in like the Lake Nona area?
He does. Yeah. I don't know if he still does. You got to remember, he's not like Scott to where he probably was being paid a little bit here and there, but he doesn't have the kind of finances, so he'd probably have to get a place. I think
Yeah,
Scott, the lucky thing for Scott is he just showed up on the plane and probably had someone at his house, you know, fluffing the pillows and changing the sheets and
yeah,
getting it ready for him. And, he and the wife and the kids just moved right back in,
yeah,
which is nice, you know.
yeah.
And that's the one thing about with Scott is, all seems right with the world again here.
Yeah,
Everybody's so jazzed about having Scott Frost back.
yeah. I know a lot of people are very happy to have
The
Scott back.
favorite son has come home.
Hmm.
It's going to be a great holiday.
No,
It's
no,
going to be everybody can't wait now for
I'm happy
even though
to
we're
have.
not expecting anything.
Yeah, what I like is he talked about disciplined kids again. It seems like that for the last. I don't know about the first year because I think some of this, but it seemed like, especially like the last 2 years, we've had really no discipline on either side of the ball.
No,
Guys
it's true.
making bad penalties, dumb penalties, and then you wonder why. Okay, it's third down and 10. They don't convert. Somebody does something stupid, and now you've prolonged their drive.
Well, the
Or
last coach here, Matt, let me go ahead and tell you, you had Scott. He said, yeah, he met with the team. He goes, what was left of it? He goes, you got a lot of kids who went home. He goes, they're
yeah,
not really obligated to be here anyway. But those who stayed, he goes, you're about 20 of them. He goes, what do you guys want to see? And all of them were overwhelmingly say accountability. You know, that the last coach who was here was awful at that.
yeah. I remember that was one of the first things
And
he
he always
talked
had
about.
his favorites.
Yeah,
You
he
know,
talks about being making kids accountable, and again, no,
no, he never
no
did.
accountability. And Heupel, the kids had a complaint with his
He was
accountability.
the one who started the accountability problem, and it
Yeah,
got worse. And I think Heupel's probably changed. Obviously, you're going to have to change if you're going to be successful in the SEC. Like, you look at Heupel's offense is completely different than what it was here. Now you can
yeah,
pass it around, things like that, but he has to run the ball. You have to be able to establish a running game.
yeah,
And I think that's one thing that Scott, who has grown a lot since he was here,
yeah,
as a man and as a coach. And I think one of those things what Scott's saying is we're not going to be UCF fast here. But I'm not comfortable anymore kind of leaving the defense out there for 40 minutes of the game.
no,
And so it'll be interesting to see what he does. I do know that for the offensive coordinator, and I'm not sure if the guy took the job, but the old Pitt offensive coordinator, which is I'm trying to remember that guy, but he's one who's thought of in high regard. Pitt was a pretty good offensive team this year,
yeah,
but that's another thing to where Scott, with some of these guys he's bringing in, they're all going to be college coaches, I'm sure, and they're all going to know who's got. So he's going to probably have to rely on those guys of of anybody, of anybody, and I'm sure he'll be able to ask Sean, who on this team should we keep?
yeah. I
So
also think you're still gonna have to probably get some portal guys just for the fact you got to fill the rest of your
you're gonna
roster
have to
out.
get it's gonna be a 50 guy portal guy. I guarantee you it's gonna be that.
Well, if you think also any of those guys that someone have entered the portal, because you can remember for a while there, Boomer wasn't picked up by anybody. You had
Has he been picked up now?
I don't know. I mean, nothing I've seen. I
I
mean,
don't know
Xavier
either.
Townsend hasn't been picked up.
Yeah, Townsend may come back. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, so you might get some of these guys back, at least the ones you want.
But yeah, I mean that's the kind of thing though. You can't have someone like I mean, so I'm a little leery of Townsend because Townsend quit on us in the middle of the season,
Yeah,
and that was one of the problems where you had again a coaching problem where you don't have any backups for your kickoff and punt returner.
yeah,
And then you had to find you
a
know
freshman who doesn't
per
really know
platoon,
what
and
he's doing.
yeah, or you
Well, if you notice by the end of the season last year, Mark, they were putting Harvey back there.
right.
RG was back there.
Well, you
So
got
you
to
got
trust
your
the senior, you got to trust one of your captains there, but like Whittemore was a guy who I guess had sure hands and had ability. There were a
yeah,
couple times where he kind of messed things up by not playing it correctly and it went for 65, 70-yard punt or something like that. Like I know that happened with BYU,
yeah,
and that that starts to that's going to give you a bad start.
mhm.
When you're on your own five or something like that. And it's like,
But I look at this too. Is there's a lot of kids out there who are high school kids
right,
that aren't getting recruited, or they're having to go to a smaller school.
right.
I'm wondering how many of these kids actually around the country, Mark, are waiting until February for something better to come up.
I know Scott and Terry have basically said, we've got to develop. Let's go out and start getting kids and develop. I want to
Yeah.
do it the old way we used to do it. And maybe that works, you know.
Mhm.
I think it's gonna end up costing you if this guy's a good player by the time he's a junior. You're gonna have to be paying this kid some money. Um, we do have the money, right?
Yeah.
Because by that time, we didn't pay any buyouts, which was nice,
Yeah.
you know,
And we didn't have to,
and we didn't
yeah,
have to pay the 12 million kind of go away fee, you know.
yeah, the two buyouts, right? The
Right,
buyout for him to leave and the buyout to get somebody to come in.
right, and
And
then
think
pay
about that.
him,
That's about 20 million right there.
pay him also a new salary,
Yeah.
pay a new coaching staff, which Scott's got a 5-year deal, you know, and he's got plenty of money to go hire a staff, you know.
Yeah.
So again, next year, I think the one goal should be try to get to a bowl.
6-6. Bowl, yeah, bowl game.
It's going to be lofty because we have no idea what we're going to see on the field. You know,
No, I agree.
Jackson State or Jacksonville State, they just won the Conference USA. They're our first game.
Oh, really?
Yes. We have North Carolina in that. And I think, did Belichick get the North Carolina job?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know either.
I think that'd be funny. I'm looking at Bill Belichick. Why would you do that?
Well, you got an inappropriately young girlfriend, and maybe he's just trying to,
Trying to
maybe his girlfriend goes to North Carolina. Who knows?
trying to show off to her. Yeah, that's true.
That's the age of the girl. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, I don't know. Sometimes, remember Spurrier? Spurrier's a coach. He went to the Apollos
Yeah.
that one season and won the championship.
Yeah.
And I remember O'Leary saying, "Look, I told him don't do it, don't inquire about it," because George O'Leary was saying, "I know him and he's a coach and he'll get involved because he just loves coaching so much." And you know, maybe that's Belichick. I thought he would take over a pro job. I never thought he would go to college.
Well, if you ever notice, Belichick never looks happy on the sideline.
Well, it's all business. It's the kind of thing to where, like you said, I mean, nowadays, especially, it seems to me that you've got a lot of coaches out there who know what they're doing. So you better be on your, P's and Q's out there because you could have bad clock
Yeah.
management and things like that and cost you games.
I just know two national championship caliber coaches that went to North Carolina and both didn't do well. You look at Mac Brown,
Right.
who's won a national title, and even though Butch Davis didn't win a national title, everybody knows that was his national title. You know?
Right. But yeah, I would say Mac Brown had some success there, and he had success the second time. You got to remember, this is how many years after his second stint that it just finally kind of, it wore itself out.
Yeah.
He was successful when he came back. I remember you know, North Carolina was kind of a dead program. That's why they brought him back.
Yeah.
And then he started winning again with this program. And then it
Well,
just
who was their coach before he got there?
I have no idea.
Oh, I don't know much about North
North
Carolina either.
Carolina, nor do I. I mean, North Carolina, I don't think Belichick's going to be around for the long haul, meaning some people were saying, well, maybe he got it because he wants to get into the Big Ten. If the Big Ten, um, expands again, which I don't know why they would. Maybe if the SEC expanded, but nobody's going to expand for another 5 years, period. You know,
Because they're also looking at their money. You think about
well,
it
I don't
because
think the money's going to be there next time.
that's what I
You
said. If the
know,
money's not there and they're expanding, then they're in trouble.
75 to 90 million dollars a team is not going to be there next time. I guarantee it.
Hmm.
And so everybody's kind of enjoying this now and getting your stadium upgrades and things like that because I think it's going to be leaner times starting next, it come
Yeah.
2031.
No, I agree. Much leaner times.
And everybody seems to say it always goes up, but I think it's finally hit its cap. When you
Yeah.
start seeing, ESPN and Fox especially. Like with Fox is they're saying they're losing, you know, losing a boatload on their News Corp right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And so with that, that costs money.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
What I mean is you're paying all this talent. And when you start really breaking down, the ratings of even Fox,
Yeah,
that they have an older crowd.
yeah,
And with that, the older crowd's not buying the Chevy or buying, the nice vacation. They're
yeah.
buying
It's not
gold.
the yeah
They're buying gold and they're buying, medical, you know, equipment
device.
and stuff like that. And that's what you're seeing on these channels. There's no
Yeah,
money in that. So,
I, I got you. But
um,
let's go back. Scott Frost. Let's say he's got his quarterback coach. He's got obviously his receiver coach. Is he like Spur? Is he going to be the offensive coordinator?
I think Scott is head coach. He's got no, I think, I don't know who the coach is at Pitt, but I think Scott has extended the offensive coordinator at Pitt, the starting, the head coaching or the offensive coordinator job here.
Do you think he takes a lateral move, especially with one because Pitt's not a program that's kind of on fire right now?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but I think they were what I was seeing is like he was the one who was being zeroed in on, and that yes, the guy was interested in coming here. That was on Sunday when I looked.
Yeah,
It may have changed by now.
yeah,
Mackenzie Milton's going to be here. I know, Sean Beckton's already here. I
yeah.
don't know what happens to
Well, a lot of our question
Shaw.
marks are on the defensive side of the ball. That's really where a lot of our question marks are.
Well, that's the
Because
thing about like Eric Shenander. He's at Boise State right now, and I
yeah,
think he's shown he's a very good defensive coordinator. Now, does he leave and come back here? I don't know. You know,
well,
and if he does he take any of those kids with him? I don't know.
yeah,
I mean, he may say, no, I'm not coming back. He may, it depends.
yeah,
Um, you know, uh, the Boise State made it to the playoff, and they're actually one of the top seeds,
yeah. No,
which is crazy.
yeah. That's
I can't. Yeah,
I
I
tell
would
you
have thought you would have given that to Notre Dame before, and I think they're gonna change that next year.
the
That
keep 5 out of the top 4.
yeah, that basically everyone is going to get. It's everyone's guaranteed out of the Power Four. You're guaranteed into the playoff no matter what.
Yeah,
But they're not going to give away the top seeds until the end of the season, and then they're going to start putting those in.
and I guess that's the thing is I don't think I'd have a problem with G5 even being a top 4 seed mark if they were undefeated and had a team where they beat like half their schedule was Power 5 teams.
Yeah, man. I mean, I disagree with that. G5, and call me a P4 snob or whatever, but they don't play anybody.
Yeah,
San Jose State sucks. You
no,
know,
no, I agree. But let's say they have
Washington State sucks now. Oregon State sucks. You go up and down and what's going to happen to Boise State here? They're going to play the first game at home, or no, because since they got a bye, they're going to be probably playing in, probably California, you know,
yeah they'll play someone like Penn State.
and or Georgia, and Georgia will be able to control the line of scrimmage on them, and they'll stop Genty, and they'll get some pressure on that kid, and that'll be it, and they'll lose by 3 touchdowns, and everybody wonder why were they in this, you know? It's like, well,
Yeah,
they should never gotten that high of a seed. It's just how it is. It's
yeah,
I've seen it so many times before. They don't have the resources to match these other teams.
yeah,
And those of us who were there and who are now here know exactly what that means. And we were
yeah,
being told that back in 2017 and 18, and I agree. When you have to go play a cold game up in Iowa State, and then the next week you're down, at Arizona State, that's tough. That's not
yeah,
San Jose State, and then the next week you're playing, Fresno State
yeah.
or Colorado State,
New Mexico.
or yeah, or Wyoming. You know, these are nice teams, but they're
They're
not
not
the power gauntlet that you sit in.
Power Four.
The Big 12. I guess the example is, Matt, you take Boise out and put them in the Big 12 even. If you think
Yeah.
Big 12 or the ACC, you think they win that?
No.
They don't even come close,
No.
and that's the thing about it. So they should not be a top 14. It's one of those things that yes, they played Oregon a close game the
Yeah.
first game of the season. But Oregon, I'm sure, changed quite a bit from
Yeah.
game 1 to game 12. And so when you put them and said, well, they played, well, so what? They still lost. If you'd have sit there and had Oregon at number 1, and they went into Oregon and beat Oregon in the first game. Yeah, it was a bad game, but they still beat them. They lost to them. It's
Look at Oregon. Oregon is they've got one loss, but they're really an outscore you type team, and I don't know if that's going to be able to work in a playoff style.
I think they have a good defense now. I think that probably the beginning of the season their defense was a little you know unorganized, and I think what happened is they pulled it together,
Yeah.
and that's the funny thing about. I think that was the one thing I saw today on one of the podcasts I was watching that Scott Frost said it was hard to get people to come to Oregon State. And now, well, look at whoever there's now. They're not. I was like, well, you're allowed to pay people now. Back
Yeah.
then, you weren't allowed to pay them. You probably were, but you weren't allowed to. So it was kind of,
Well, if
when
you
you
look at
pay 'em-
Oregon too, Oregon's getting Nike money.
right. When you're paying $1 million to a kid, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
When you can only pay him $30,000 of hush money, you may not get the kid. And that's your big difference. To where I don't know what Dylan Gabriel's making, but I'm sure he's making a couple million.
Yeah. You probably look it up. It's probably public record.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. But point being is back when Scott Frost was there, he's not making a couple million.
No.
Even as a starter, he probably would have made about a nice, cool $50,000 or something like that. And
Yeah.
someone else wants to give him $50,000, he may not go to Oregon.
No, it's yeah, no, I agree.
Big difference.
I think Oklahoma was really kind of just very lofty to think they could get rid of him for this, freshman they were, the redshirt freshman they were
Well, I
starting
think
to.
that kid did he get replaced by another freshman?
Yeah.
And that team beat Alabama with
Yeah.
that was the big
Alabama.
kind of snafu was
Yeah. That would
Alabama
what a
not
Jekyll
making.
and Hyde team. I mean, here's a team that beats Georgia, the SEC champion, but yet they get dominated by a poor Oklahoma team and really dominated by um, Vanderbilt.
Right. They had a third loss. Who was that against? Ole Miss or something?
Uh, Tennessee.
Tennessee beat them. Okay. Well,
Tennessee beat.
because Tennessee's in the playoffs. So because like with Mackenzie Milton, does he stay for the playoff now, or
That's a good question. And it just depends on he probably feels what his role there is. If he was just some guy who was
he's an
being
offensive analyst?
yeah, if he's being used a lot, then maybe. But like I said, right now, is they might need him to recruit. Scott said, "I need you down here going to."
I think if you're hiring him, if he accepts the job, you take him now. Say, look,
Yeah,
pack your things and get down here. You're done
yeah.
there. And it is what it is.
Because he's a family man now, right?
I think he has a son. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
got child.
Yeah,
So that's he'd probably rather be down in the warmer weather anyway.
I would agree. I definitely agree on that. But
Yeah, but if you look at the 12,
it's
you
taking
know,
shape. The coaching staff.
the 12 players that we have now from this class that stayed, we could possibly get another 6, maybe even 8 by February.
Another
8.
12.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying 12 would be A plus. I'm just saying we go B to C. So if you get 18 kids,
Hmm.
but there 6 more that are quality kids. Let's say we get you know 4 stars and 2 3-star kids. That turns out to be a really good class.
Yeah, funny thing is Dion, it was kind of what funny because I was watching Dion today and he was talking about the difference between the portal and high school. He goes,
Yeah,
we could take 25 kids. He goes, the problem with that is how many kids are going to probably play? Probably four. So you're redshirting 21 kids.
Yeah.
What happens is I can guarantee you, out of those 21 kids after spring, you're going to get half of them to leave right off the bat
Yeah.
because they're not happy with their playing time or how they, he goes,
Yeah.
what happens is you just spent all this money and all this,
Effort,
manpower on 12 kids who are not here anymore. So get the kids who you know are going to be able to play as a freshman. Otherwise, don't bother with them.
yeah.
And I think that could benefit Scott
Yeah.
because I think Scott has found, or there are guys who are two-star players turned out to be pretty serviceable guys, when they got here.
Gabe Davis.
Yeah, well, he was a three-star wide receiver, two-star tight end.
Okay.
So it wasn't like he was just known as a tight end. But like Cam Moore, does he
Yeah.
come back?
Yeah.
Because he's
He's in the portal.
Scott knows that family.
Oh, does he? Oh, I guess
Cam,
Bam. Yeah.
Cam Moore left middle of the season, man.
Oh, he did?
I don't know if he went somewhere else, but you may have Scott go, come on back. I'll find something for you. You may not play linebacker. You may play outside linebacker. I'll find. I thought that guy was a player.
Yeah. He was tough, tough nosed kid.
He's not a big guy, but he's a good player.
I haven't seen him on the field in 2 seasons.
Well, he played sparingly at first, and like I said, I think he left halfway through the season because he wasn't happy with playing time. But
Yeah.
that guy's gone now.
Yeah.
So now you've got a guy who's familiar with Cam Moore and his family, so he may go to Cam and come on back.
Yeah.
I'll be straight
Yeah.
up with you. And if it doesn't work out, you can leave in spring.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling it will work out because Cam Moore as a freshman was fine out there.
Hmm. Very true.
I think X3 Alexander, he's staying,
Good player.
and he's a good player.
Yeah. Good player.
I think you were kind of reading a couple of these players that were in the portal, and I was kind of like, well, yeah, he can go. But X3 Alexander, I think, is staying. He never got into the portal. He's a kid from, I think, north of here.
Yeah.
So he's in the town he wants to be in. I think we just extended an offer to a kid in a receiver, I want to say at Ohio, but I'm not sure. But he's another Florida kid.
Yeah.
Kobe Jones, I don't know if he has any um eligibility left, but God, if he could come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kid was a player.
I agree.
Like
But we,
Javarius Johnson has experience.
yeah.
I don't see it being a problem, Scott finding,
Receivers.
yeah,
Well, we've also got a few kids in the class.
specialty guys.
Yeah. We got receivers in this class.
Right. But we're gonna have to figure out, is Mike Walker staying?
Yeah.
Is can we, is there a way we can figure out how to keep number two for his senior year?
Yeah.
And then like LeBlanc, is if you can maybe keep him at
And
end,
yeah.
I know number 11 took off.
Yeah.
The other end, he's gone. But I don't know what happened with Malachi Lawrence, if he's staying or leaving either.
Well, he wasn't in the portal.
Malachi Lawrence is?
He's not.
Okay. Well, maybe he's staying
Probably staying.
because he's a decent defensive lineman. But
Oh yeah.
um, it'll be interesting. I think there are some guys you may be able to get back, and you
Yeah.
may have to get back
And
just
that's
because you know who the guy is. He's familiar with the system enough, and say if he doesn't pan out, then you can let him go next year. At least you gave him a shot, a real shot.
yeah.
Unlike the problem we always had with the last coach is he would sit there and win the off season, as we were kind of talking about before we got on, of a top 40, then a top 30 class and all this stuff. But these guys never panned out. And then
No.
Eben Cole would be another one. I'd sit there and see if he wanted to come back.
Yeah.
He's a defensive end. Kid was a 4-star recruit. Never developed under.
Barely even saw the field.
And to me, that's the thing, Scott, or the old coach knows I'm not saying his name
Yeah.
because I know a lot of people are like, oh, he left this place a burning. So, he wasn't all that great.
Yeah.
Nice guy, I guess, but nonetheless, he he never really developed anybody. I think that was another kind of knock on him is that he would hire acolytes and not real coaches. He'd hire former players, guys who are good at recruiting because they're young,
Yeah.
but they never developed anybody. And that's what got old.
Yeah.
That's what you got had going on here. So, you know, it- it- good luck to him, but I'm glad he's gone.
I'm just curious if he's talking about getting, mean, nasty offensive lineman, if he's going to actually go recruit Texas and, just north of there, like that area.
But I think he's going to hit the portal pretty hard first, and I think
Yeah.
the one thing he's good about doing, Matt, is talent evaluation. Scott.
Yeah.
So Scott will find some people. Like I said, he had Cole Schneider, which was a nasty, mean
Yeah.
offensive lineman. Matt Lee was another one,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so he can find them, and he's very familiar with the Big 12
Yeah. No, that's,
playing it.
he played in it when he was a player.
Right,
Big Eight, which is pretty much the same
right,
thing.
right. So he is familiar with the stadiums, all that kind of stuff. And the great thing about it is, Matt, he really he wants to be here.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It was interesting when he walked in, and one of the first things he said during the press conference was like, "I parked in the old parking spot that I parked in 2 years ago when I used to work here."
Yeah.
He goes, it was just so surreal of walking back in here, how everything has changed, but nothing has changed. And he goes, it just
Yeah.
really felt good to be back in the building. It's one of
Yeah.
those things where you got your guy, you know,
Yeah.
because the rest of these guys aren't giving you their heart and their soul. You know what I'm
No.
saying? And that's
Yeah.
what we need right now.
Yeah.
Is a guy who's going to give everything to do this.
Mhm.
And I think Scott is that guy.
No, I agree. I think he's the guy we want. He wants to be here. And again, I think he's going to need at least a season, maybe two, to kind of turn things around. And I think next year, you're right, saying earlier in the program, if we could get 6 wins, which I don't, I think we can, depending on what talent stays and what we can get in the transfer portal, and if again recruit any kind of freshman that'll help out. Because again, as you and I both know, and we've talked about, he does use freshmen.
Right.
He use freshmen, and again, they'll pay off dividends. But how much will they pay off in that first year? Now, I think when you had guys like Adrian Killens and OJ Anderson, those guys paid off, but there were plenty of talent around them. Richie Grant is another one.
Richie Grant, yeah, and
But Bam Moore, was he a freshman also?
he was a freshman, true freshman starter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like with Otis Anderson, man, if you look at his 24/7 composite, he's
Yeah.
wearing Iowa State gear.
Yeah.
Like he was going to Iowa State, and Scott talked him into coming here,
Yeah.
to where I think Scott is one of those guys who's going to be able to, I think he'll be able to right the ship here. A lot of people, especially in the national scene, are going, yeah, it never works. And I really need to sit there and be vindicated that these people don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And let's say, which I don't, but let's say it doesn't work, then we got closure.
Well, yeah, very true. But thing about it is too, Matt, usually when these people come back, they're not in the frame of mind that Scott's in. They're
Yeah.
more or less like, hey, okay, great, I'll collect another check, and they're
Yeah.
kind of done. Scott's not. He's re-energized at this
Yeah.
point,
And he's still young enough too to have a lot of years here.
right? And to where he's still in his 40s.
Yeah.
And the one thing he talked about being is like he said this was when he was the happiest in his life in his coaching career when he was here
Yeah.
for the very short. He goes, there was something about no one tells you when you're climbing the ladder of success, stop when you find out you're happy.
Yeah.
And he goes, and obviously he talked about the pressure of with his father.
Yeah. Which
And
I totally get the reasons why he left.
right,
Get,
well,
your alma
I'm telling you
mater.
right now,
You've got your
Trev
dad.
Alberts was hired there. I think it's got. I wouldn't trust Alberts as far as I could throw him. You know,
Yeah, is he going now too?
oh, he's at Texas A&M now. So,
See.
but you know, Trev Alberts, I think, was there to make Scott miserable to try to make him quit,
Yeah.
and he couldn't get him to quit, so then they fired him.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's a tough
how many
situation.
single score games did Scott lose while he was there? Quite a few, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was 5-15.
Yeah. See, I mean, that's
That's
that's that's some of the worst luck you'll ever have.
yeah. I think his chances will be better than that here.
I hope so. You know,
Well, again, I don't think he was able to recruit with Nebraska with the ability, especially if he has a problem. The recruiting bid that he was recruiting out of just isn't as strong for Nebraska as it is here. It's just
right?
not.
No, I believe you.
So
That I you had heard that there were guys that basically, and Scott never really iterated, but there are some guys who were on the staff that basically said that the town Nebraska is hard to get people to get there.
yeah,
Now, basically, top recruits, you would bring them in at night so they wouldn't look at the town on the way to the campus
yeah, that's tough.
and stuff like that. To where, he
And then
doesn't
they
have that
wake
problem
up
here.
in the morning and say, "What is this?"
And that's
You
the
know,
thing about it, he does
what?
not have that problem here.
No, he won't.
A kid's got plenty to do here besides football,
Absolutely. And again, he'll look at the campus. The campus is a thriving university.
right?
Kids who are between the age of 18 and 23, 24 love to be on UCF's campus.
Right. It appears the McNamara Cove is getting ready to get built. They're tearing down the tower. Roth Tower is getting redone.
Yeah, I'm I'm still seeing what's what with that, I guess.
Supposedly the money's there.
Yeah, I just
You know, I'm not going to, ever go into McNamara Cove, but these kids will, and
yeah.
that's what it's for. It's not for me. I just go to the football game and go home.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's but I just I don't know. It's
Well,
some.
we'll see. Should be fun.
Yeah, well again, we'll see.
Right.
Well, but what do you think about for one last year? Um Scott brings back Mikey Keene.
Well, Mikey's in the transfer portal.
That's what I mean. Wouldn't that be
Um,
a great story?
I think it'd be a great story. Little, and Mikey, what no, he was 13. He's not a 10. He's a
Yeah,
13. I think 13 is probably open, you know.
yeah.
So he was number
Again,
one at Fresno State.
he's not a quarterback like McKenzie is. Remember, Mikey's not a real runner.
Nah, not really. I don't know. If he's someone I think you got to remember. I think Mikey. No offense to Mikey, I love Mikey, but he's a G5 quarterback. You know,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I wish him.
maybe Dylan Risk is too. We'll find that out. Like he's a good Dylan Risk would have been great here, Matt, 10 years ago.
Yeah,
2015, him instead of that guy we had that kid from Texas that didn't win a game,
yeah,
Dylan would have been a better option, you know.
yeah,
But in the G5, I just don't know if he's a P4 quarterback, you know.
yeah. Well, like I said, is I think again, you and I both have said that Scott is a very good talent evaluator. McKenzie, if he looks at him and says, "Yeah, this is our guy," and I think he can win with for, hey, you're a nice guy. We like you. You're good, but we don't think you fit with us, and we want to wish you luck wherever you go.
Right.
That might be it too. So who knows?
Well, I'm sure Scott's driving around the 90-mile area that he knows and
Yeah,
saying hi to all the coaches again,
yeah,
reintroducing himself back. I'm back, you know. I'm going to stay this time. I'm not going anywhere, I promise. At least for 5 years, because that's how
yeah,
long his contract's for. And I think if he can turn it around, I'll give the guy 10 years. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I think if he gets things rolling again, I think he'll stay just because I think this is where he wants to be. I think he's got three children now, and I think he wants to raise his children here.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think he, this is the area he wants to raise his children in. So,
Yeah,
not for them to do,
yeah,
wife,
no, I agree.
to where, um, it'll be interesting to see how things play out. I think, spring has all of a sudden gotten very interesting. Like today,
Mm,
the Mackenzie Milton story popped that he's coming back. I mean, like
yeah,
it is going to be interesting now from here on until August of what happens with football. You got
yeah,
basketball started, to where um got a bunch of new kids, which I like basketball, and I really like the UCF team this year. I think Johnny, um, we got a couple injuries that hopefully we get a couple of these guys back, but I'm really kind of interested to see what Johnny can do his second year in the Big 12.
yeah.
Big 12 is the premier basketball,
No,
conference.
it is. Yeah, absolutely. And I said is he's had a few good wins already.
Right.
Beating the right
Texas
team, beat a
A&M,
team that was he beat a team that was in the Final Four 2 years ago.
FAU.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also
So
beat Texas A&M, which was 13 at the time, I think.
yeah,
Here, so um, we're in December here, so at the end of December is when you start getting the Big 12 gauntlet going, and it will be interesting to see
it's gonna be a gauntlet. Is it?
Jordan, Ivy, Curry, some of these guys and what they can do. To I mean, that's just a fun name to say.
Yeah.
Kid's a good player, but he does have a fun name.
GIC.
And um, but I guess it is darkest before it get before the light again. The dark days are behind us.
Yeah.
Someone has moved on. Thank God.
Hmm.
I wish him well, and everybody
Yeah.
else who goes with him, I wish them well as well.
Yeah.
I have no hard feelings. I'm not sorry that it ended. I'm just sorry it's ended. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, uh,
Well, and like I said, it's what I consider in the past. I'm good with it. I'm glad it's gone. Let's start a note. Let's turn the page.
yeah, yeah, and
On another note, though, about with bowl season, we're not talking because I don't really care about the whole playoff going on. Who wins? Tulane, Florida.
oh, is that who's playing? I think
Yeah,
Florida kicks the crap out of Tulane.
Gasparilla Bowl, Florida versus
I think Florida
Tulane.
beats Tulane by 2 touchdowns at least. Get
Yeah,
better. Florida's able to control the line of scrimmage, and what I saw with Tulane is Army was all over them,
yeah.
offense and defense. And to me, Florida's every bit as good as Army.
Oh
Every
yeah.
so that's not even going to be a game, I don't think.
No. Now is the Army Navy game this weekend?
Yes,
What's a late game? Last game of the season, huh?
and I think do they bump up the Heisman Trophy for this weekend too? Because I
Yeah,
think next weekend you get the first round of the playoff, right?
it's this weekend.
Playoff is this weekend,
No Heisman trophies this weekend.
right? Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Who do you think wins that?
I think Dylan Gabriel or the Miami quarterback, the two guys that are sixth year,
Yeah,
you know, which I don't think Janty wins.
yeah,
I think a lot of people who know what he is, he's a fine story, Matt. But
yeah.
some of the people I've been discussing this with, like, he'll go if he goes, Matt, he'll go in the fifth to seventh round. Genty,
Well, who do you think's better? Like,
Adaboo will go before him.
yeah, Scatterbo. Yeah, who do you think's better?
Don't you think?
Scatterbo. I do too. And I
Scadaboo
was
will go
having a
before him.
discussion, and somebody was like, "No, that Scatterbo. But Scatterbo missed what 2, 3 games this year."
Yeah,
That's what I said. It's like you can't.
RJ will probably go before him.
What do you think, RJ, between third, second day guy?
Yeah, he's probably second day guy, but with Genty, I have a feeling, Matt, he'll go fifth to seventh round,
Yeah,
and it's just because he hadn't played anybody. He's not a very big guy,
no,
and it's just like no offense, he'll probably. I'm not sure he'll be in the league the past 3 years, but he'll be a fifth to seventh round pick, and whatever will happen.
maybe he'll get a payday. Who knows, right?
Who knows? You're right. I agree.
Well,
Like Florida State's not going bowling. Miami, who's Miami playing in the bowl?
I didn't catch it.
What about South Florida?
I didn't catch that either.
Okay, I don't think anybody cares about the South Florida game, but
Yeah.
um, with Miami, I don't think anybody really cares about the Miami game either because it were, pretty much had a plane crash of a season.
Yes, they did.
And as good as they were and what they wound up being, there were a lot of people are complaining that Syracuse quarterback is better than Miami's quarterback. I'm like, well, you know,
Well, I mean, you look at Miami too, and they're not a tough team. I'm sorry. You go up 21 to nothing, and then you end up losing the game. It's like, really, guys?
I don't disagree, but you know,
So they got nobody to blame but themselves with that outcome. You
that's
had your destiny ahead of you guys, and you didn't take it.
a good point.
You look at some of those teams in the past that won national championships. They went out and they took their stake. This team did not.
Well, seems like, and this is sort of something, but what I always said with Miami, they always had to win 3 games in some of those
Yeah,
championships.
yeah,
It's very unfair that Miami would have to beat Florida State, maybe one of the Big Eight teams once, or maybe a Big Ten team once or so, and then win a bowl game at home, you know, in the
Well,
national championship.
if you look at those national championships, a lot of their wins were against teams that were in the AAC with us.
Right. And,
They would beat
I mean,
Temple.
they would play Notre Dame and they'd beat them. Notre Dame was good back in the 80s, things like that.
Yeah,
But, you know, they'd have Florida State, maybe a Notre Dame. And if not Notre Dame, then they had either Oklahoma or Nebraska.
yeah,
And, that was about the schedule. Then it was like East Carolina, you know,
yeah,
teams like Temple, and crap like that. And, they didn't really have much of a record after that. But, and to where you had, you know, uh, Notre Dame playing a Big Ten schedule, pretty much,
exactly.
you know, and, you know, what is it? Nebraska playing a Big Eight schedule, which was a lot tougher.
Yeah,
I think they had Texas A&M and Texas in there, right?
yes, yes, they did. Yeah,
And Oklahoma,
Oklahoma. You had Mizzou was in there.
right? So, and not that Mizzou was anything, but the again, I think Miami played a bunch of cream puffs with the exception of Florida State and maybe one other team, and they would get shot right to you know the front of the line and get to play a national championship at home.
Yeah, well, they were a good story. It was. And again, the '80s, it was just different. Than
Well,
it is.
that's the thing about it. Like when I was comparing Scott Frosty, he knows a lot of these places that we're going to. He's played there, so he
Yeah,
knows these places. Jimmy Johnson knew these guys.
yeah.
And that was the big help. But yeah, I don't know where Miami's playing. I know my daughter's team is playing in the Arizona Bowl,
What team is that?
Colorado State.
South plays the Arizona Bowl, huh?
They're playing in the Arizona Bowl, which is just on the Arizona um, uh, campus.
Who they playing?
They're in Tempe, or not in Tempe, but in where are they at? Not Arizona State, but Arizona.
Okay.
um, the Arizona Bowl. So, but you know, they didn't play Boise State this year,
I
and
missed the Blue Bonnet Bowl.
well, that's been going on since the '90s, hasn't it?
Oh, easy. Even
And
though
yeah,
The Sun Bowl is still around.
in El Paso, yeah,
Yeah, it's still there.
yeah, it is. But you know, that's they're in El Paso there to where I don't know how safe that is, you know,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, I know the Orange Bowl. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this because I'll be honest with you, I'm not really that interested. Like I think with the playoff, and I guess we'll end with the playoff here
Yeah.
and comments about that. Um, I guess the first games are at home. You can play those playoff games. Like I said, I think it should be at 15. The top seed gets off. Everybody else at 7 games is what you
Yeah,
have. Play those in the lesser bowls. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And if you want to sit there and put the Oregon, or they'll be off, but I know Georgia has to play. Put Georgia in a lesser bowl in the Southeast so people can just drive to it. You know,
yeah,
I think you would really kind of spark the interest in that bowl. And, they probably still make enough money, whatever they'd be making at their own stadium.
yeah.
And it would probably be a little bit more interesting. And then
I guess
after that,
Georgia's they're a seeded team.
yeah, they're like fifth or sixth. I think they're
No,
sixth.
Georgia. I thought Georgia's number two.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, not Georgia. Texas, they're
Yes,
sixth, right?
yeah. Texas is,
And
Tennessee's.
that's what your difference is going to be to where Boise's going to have to play a team like Texas, Matt, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, they play actually Penn State if
Okay.
Penn State
Penn
wins.
State. And it's like Penn State's going to control that line of scrimmage on them.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens, but I don't see, really being that favorable. But I guess
Right.
that's why you play the games, right?
That's right. I gotta admit I don't really have much of an interest in the playoff.
No, I don't either.
Once Florida's done, my college.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
I'll probably be looking at the rivals or some of the accounts I have to see where what's updated with UCF and what's going
there's
on
going
with.
to be plenty going on at our place. That's
But
all about,
and that's really the only thing I'm going to have interest in.
right.
Nothing else.
Okay. You want to wrap it up? I think we're over an hour here.
Yeah. Well, for
It's been a trying season.
yeah, it was a difficult season, but
Um, I
I'm
guess you and
looking
I,
for greener pastures to start.
yeah, you and I can start doing more of these when you have, and I think since we weren't on for the last month because
Yeah,
of just it was tough to do one.
yeah.
The Arizona wasn't tough because we had won, but then the very following week at Arizona State, it was like I don't think I can talk for an hour about this debacle of a game I just watched.
But it was always the kind of same thing. We were more heavily penalized. We had a couple of mental breakdowns. It was blah 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 the same stuff.
Right.
I
The
was
same,
like,
the same thing was happening, you know.
yeah,
And I guess what we can do is now maybe during this time leading up to next season, just have some shorter podcasts. If
yeah.
something happens, we'll stick on schedule and whatever that topic is, and do that.
I
Okay.
agree. I agree. Well, for Night Speed, I am Matt Johnson.
This is Mark Johnson, and we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. Go ahead and
We'll go
start off with go Knights.
and we'll see everybody later.
Charge on.